A lot of people do. Great. So, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And this is Anjum Hanafi, who is a friend of mine, a mother of three, holistic healer and digital marketer, whose early passion for health led her to natural remedies and reducing toxin exposure. With a master's in public health and a certification as a practitioner, she coaches people on cycle-specific fasting, hormone balance, and hijama therapy. Anjum's going to talk a little bit about Sunnah healing foods, hijama, and earth-based living. And along with that, I want to add, because Anjum's a good friend of mine, I really inspire and look up to her for her spiritual path, and her, her soul shines through beautifully, mashallah. So I am so grateful for you to giving us this time, and I'm going to mute myself and have you do the talk. And then at the end, we'll get together and do a few minutes of interactive session. We'll open up for people to ask questions. And that's the whole idea, right? It's more about discussion and having us ask our questions and get answers. So, Jazakallah, Anjum.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Afshan, for the introduction. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. As Afshan said, my name is Anjum. A couple of things I just want to say before we get started. I think typically when they do these Zooms, they don't usually have everybody's little squares showing up. But I don't like to know that I'm just talking to myself. So I've put everybody's squares there. I do ask that you stay muted, but if you do have a question, feel free to raise your hand and we'll unmute you. I want this to be extremely interactive, and I will be asking questions throughout the presentation. And so I do want you guys to unmute or put into the chat your answers. And if not, it's going to get really boring because you're just going to have to hear me talk, and you don't want to hear me talk the whole time. So, as Afshan said, holistic health and healing has always been my passion. Really, since I was a little kid, I never used to like taking medications, not just because I didn't like the smell or the taste of them. I just didn't want to take medications. My father had a very similar alhamdulillah, a very similar thought process. So I probably kind of learned a little bit from him. But as a result of being very connected, wanting to stay very connected to the earth in terms of healing my body and that of my family, it led me to home birth my kids. Like, my kids were born not in this house, but in the other house, but they were born in a house. But so my heart and passion has always been there. And then, alhamdulillah, as I continue to learn about Islam, and when we're young, we're just kind of taught all the routines, but as we get older, we really start to explore, well, what is Islam, right? And there is so much within Islam that talks about, first of all, we all know that Allah has said for every illness, there is a cure, right? And for the most part, Allah has said that the cure actually comes from the earth. And so one of the things I want to ask you, and this is where you would have to either unmute yourself. Are they able to unmute? They must be able to unmute by themselves.
No, I don't think so. But Maheen put her hand up and had a question. You wanna?
Okay.
There is a hand, and they can always put it in a chat.
Yes. Let me just check. Can one of you Melissa, maybe can one of you just try to unmute yourself? I don't know if you guys have the capacity. I think they have it pretty locked down here at NAMCC.
Assalamu alaikum.
Oh,
yes. Yeah, we have that ability, but the regular chat is disabled.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we only have Q&A option.
There you said. Okay, I see Q&A after the regular chat is disabled. Okay, let me see if I can.
Right, and we can look at the Q&A, and that way we could use that as a chat too.
Okay, so you guys put the Q&A, I guess, for now,
Yeah.
and Afshan will keep track of that. But
Yeah,
when I
do
ask questions, I'd really love for you guys to engage. Otherwise, it's going to be really awkward because we're just going to be sitting here quietly while I wait for you to answer. So one of the things I want to ask you guys before I even start is, I want you guys to think about when you are feeling stressed, or you're feeling, you're feeling down. What is it? And I don't know if I'm going to ask it the right way to get the answer I want, but once I give you the answer, you'll be like, oh, that's what she meant. But when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling down, what are some things that recharge you? And it may not even be you, but like, you'll hear people say, oh my gosh, I just did this or I did that, and they feel recharged. So I want you to just think of that. If you're feeling mentally stressed, you're feeling emotionally stressed, what feels good to get out of that space sometimes? Prayer, of course, we know, and I just want to preface all of this by saying also that all shifa is from Allah. Like, all shifa comes from Allah. All healing comes from Allah. So with that as the foundation, when we're feeling stressed, emotionally stressed, what is sometimes the first place, physical location type place that we would turn to maybe start to feel better. And I don't know if you guys will quite get the link I'm making, but I'll share it with you if not. If you guys have a thought.
Yeah, Nilofer said take a walk and go outside.
Okay, exactly. What else?
I'd say I take a nap, but that's
Okay.
not the best coping
Okay,
strategy
that's
sometimes,
fine.
but a good nap always takes care of everything.
Yeah, okay, fair. Melissa?
So I just played with my son right now
Okay.
for 30 minutes playing ball and cheered him on as he caught a ball for the first time. And I'm literally not within my own head,
So
focused
sweet.
on him.
So sweet.
Alhamdulillah.
So sweet.
Took
Mashallah.
me out of the stress.
Okay, I love it. Okay, so great options, right? Taking Afshan likes to take naps, which is fair. Melissa, you played with your son. Nilofer said, take a walk, go outside. So I'm gonna go off of what Nilofer said, right? Those of you who like the beach, or those of you who like the
This is
mountains.
interesting. Somebody also said they have a list to choose from, and someone said, listen to
nice.
Ruqya.
I have a list. Okay, so yeah, listen to Ruqya. Excellent. So all excellent thoughts. Where I'm going with this is, imagine yourself at the beach. Maybe this is how I should have phrased it. Imagine yourself sitting at the beach. Imagine yourselves just taking a walk in nature, in a green belt, on a hike, right? So many people will start by feeling, oh, I'm so stressed, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. And then they go out in nature, to the beach, to the mountains, to a cabin. And all of a sudden they're like, I feel so good. I feel so calm. I don't feel stressed anymore, right? Why is that? It's because Allah has put so much healing benefit in the earth. Okay. So when we're emotionally stressed, mentally stressed, spiritually stressed, we have that tendency. We want to get outside. We want to be in nature. We want to connect with nature. We want to have our feet on the ground. But why is it that when it comes to illness, so physical body stress, we don't think, maybe we should also connect to the earth, this same bounty that Allah has given us? Why aren't we connecting there? Why do we always run to the doctor and expect some sort of medication? And this is I'm never going to say that the Western medical system is horrible and nobody should go to a doctor. There is a time and place for all of that. But I do say that why isn't the first place we turn to Allah's bounty? Okay, so with that, I'm going to share my screen, and here we go. You guys are going to let me know when you can see it. Okay, can everybody see it? Somebody just give me a.
Yep, we can see it.
This is the annoying part of when you share your screen. You can't. I've got all these things in my way. So, Afshan, I'm going to need you though to monitor.
Yeah, I'll keep track of the question.
Okay. So today I want to talk a little bit about prophetic healing, and I want to specifically focus on hijama, of course, herbs and homeopathy. And I have a website, it's salamlife.com. You guys are always welcome to write that down. You're welcome to visit it. I have some information on there. I'm trying to make it robust with more information that I can continue to share with you, but that is my website. Okay. So Islam and healing. So Islam truly encourages us to use natural earth-based remedies for healing. This is literally the provision of Allah. Allah has given us this. Just like we say, when we eat the food that comes from the earth, it's coming from Allah, right? It's different when you open up a bag of Cheetos versus grabbing an apple, right? What do those two things do to your body? And I'm not picking on Cheetos. We all like a good Cheeto sometimes. But what are those two things? When we're getting the Cheeto, man-made, chemical made, in a lab, who knows where it's made, it's not even real food, but we're not going to get into that, versus picking this apple from Allah's bounty, from Allah's earth, right? How does our physical body respond to that? So healing plants and foods. Can you guys tell me, in particular in the Quran, of course, what are some healing plants and foods that are mentioned, or just foods and stuff in general that are mentioned within the Quran? You guys can unmute, no worries, or you can just put it in the thing.
Got honey.
Honey, excellent. What else?
Pomegranate for me.
Yeah, pomegranate.
Fig, Injil.
Fig, Injil, yeah. Hey, Maheen, salam alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Olive oil.
Olive oil.
Olives.
Yeah.
Olives, yeah. You guys are forgetting a really big one.
Black seeds.
Black seed, yeah.
Figs.
Figs, yeah. Yeah.
Date.
Meat.
Date.
Meat, yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so good. You guys got them. Honey,
Turmeric.
olives,
Melissa
dates.
said turmeric
You
too.
guys forgot dates. Clearly, you guys forgot it, and how ironic
So
that.
Nilofer did say
Oh, she did say
my
dates. I
pain
didn't hear
threshold is
dates.
very low, so I want to take the medicine first and then pray dates, honey, and milk, she said.
She
And then
wants to. Is that what she say? I want to take the medicine first.
and then pray, and then she mentioned dates, honey, and milk.
Okay, good. Yes, milk. I didn't write milk. So just some of the healing plants and foods that are mentioned in the Quran, right? These are really sunnah foods: honey, olive, dates, pomegranates, figs. I wrote dates twice, black seed, olive oil, all of that. So these are just foods. Again, all they're mentioned in the Quran. They're blessings from Allah, and they have real healing and nourishment in them. Black seed in particular, there's a hadith that says use the black seed because it contains a cure for every type of ailment except death. Now, how you can use black seed, some people will literally just take black seed, throw it in some water and drink the water. You can also get some black seed oil. If you, obviously you guys are local to Austin, I know that there's the Austin Meat Market on 620. They have beautiful black seed oil that's like in a glass bottle. So again, these are things that we also want to be conscious of. Something in a glass bottle would be better than something in a plastic bottle. Okay, hijama. We're going to talk a bunch about hijama, but hijama also is one of the ways that Allah instructed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we'll talk a little bit about the history of it, for him to heal his ummah. So what is hijama? I wonder if anyone on here can tell me if they have has anyone on here had hijama done? Maybe you can just put it in the chats and Afshan can kind of let me know. I'm just curious if people have had it done.
Someone said yes.
I have it done, yes.
Okay. So people have had it done. Excellent. So hijama is it's a cupping therapy, and we'll get into the history of it. But effectively what it does is it literally detoxifies your blood. It takes the toxins out of your blood, and we'll get into all the specifics about it. And that in general is a purification for your body. And like I said, we'll get into many more details about it. Hold on. Okay, wait. So, the best medicine with which you can treat yourself is cupping. And again, this is a hadith. So in general, Islam teaches us that the earth and its resources are a way that we need to learn to heal ourselves. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam practiced and recommended lots of natural remedies, really kind of teaching us, right? If we're to learn from him, he was teaching us that the earth has given you what you need to heal. And when we are healing with the earth, it's literally like we are healing with what Allah has given us, right? So it's not only that we're using the earth because Allah has given it to us, but imagine how much faith we are then putting that Allah gave us this. So inshallah, it's going to work, right? Because we are relying again on Allah. And when we think back, like certainly when I think back to my grandmothers, even my mother to some level, but my grandmothers, just think about all the things, right? Now we'll say that these are old wives' tales, but they're not really old wives' tales. They used the earth to heal everything. I mean, so many of us have so many stories about how our grandmothers did this or that, because they knew how to harness the power of the earth and use it within healing. Okay, so the Sunnah of hijama. So during the ascension of Prophet through the seven heavens, there was a point during that. So during one of the nights of Isra, every angel that he passed said to him, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon you, order your ummah to heal themselves with hijama, right? And this was every angel that he passed. And there's lots of hadith that speak to hijama. If there's any good in any of the remedies, I can't even read my screens fully because I've got this screen, but you guys can read it. So I can't read it because my screen is actually blocked out partially, but if there's any good in any of the remedies you use, do cupping, do hijama. If there is something that's excellent to be used for healing, then it is cupping, and then you can read it. If there's any good in your medicines, gulp of honey, cupping, hijama, or cauterization, but cauterization is really not recommended. And what is really interesting is when I began my hijama practice, you can kind of see my bed behind me. I don't have my sheets on it right now. I actually had many non-Muslims, people of other faiths, that would come to me for healing. And they'd all heard of cupping, but nobody had heard of wet cupping. And hijama is actually a form of wet cupping. So I would explain it to them. And then I started doing my own research to see, was hijama only a practice for that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was introduced to, or was it really a practice of many prophets? And so literally I just Googled, did, Hazrat Isa, I wrote Jesus, but did Jesus use wet cupping to heal? And there is a breadth of literature that talks about how he did, right? And the idea behind it is that when people used to get sick, their understanding of the illness was that your blood was sick. Okay. So if your blood is sick, your blood has stuff in it that's not good and it's making you sick, what do? Their understanding is, well, let's get the blood out. Let's get the blood out. New blood will, form in the body and the person will heal. So what they used to do is they used to basically do bloodletting, what they called bloodletting. Now, did they have the same, tools? And I'll go over all the tools with you guys in a second, but did they have the same tools? Probably not. Did they know how much blood to take out? Probably not. Did they have hygienic practices? It's debatable. So of course, their practice maybe wasn't so, didn't have sort of a clinical aspect to it. But even way back then, they understood that when somebody was sick, something was going amiss with their blood. So their idea was, let's get the blood out. Okay, so let's understand hijama a little bit. Okay, so one of the things I always like to tell my clients when they come is, as Muslims, the truth is, we don't really need to understand why hijama works, because hijama is a Sunnah practice. So just because it's a Sunnah practice, we will believe that there is wisdom in it. That being said, we are now at a day and age where, alhamdulillah, we have the ability to research everything. We've got clinical studies. We've got, we have all the resources at our hands to understand, okay, here is a Sunnah practice. Just like eating dates, it's a Sunnah practice. When our ancestors used to eat the dates, they didn't really understand why. Now we know down to the milligram how much fiber is in it, how much iron is in it, how much sugar is in it. And so we're able to say, okay, it's a Sunnah practice, and wow, look at this wisdom. Look at how good these are for you. And it's the same for hijama. So the idea behind hijama is that every illness and disease is rooted in inflammation, okay? And inflammation, so even now, Western medicine will have started to say things like dementia, Alzheimer's, depression, even depression and anxiety, certainly everything else, arthritis, gut issues, I mean, you name it, cancer, they are all rooted in inflammation, okay? So what is inflammation, right? Inflammation, of course, is, and Dr. Afshan could probably speak to this better than I could, but inflammation, of course, is just, it, right? You feel like, oh, I'm inflamed, and people put ice on it, they take ibuprofen to cut the blood supply down, reduce the inflammation. So
I have to tell you, Anjum, this part that I 10 years in practice, about 25 years since I started med school and all of that. But people didn't talk. Inflammation was a small topic in our med school.
Yeah.
Nutrition was not taught in med school.
Correct.
Only last 5 years as an integrative psychiatrist, I understand it more better than some of my colleagues who are in psychiatry don't understand it. So
Yes.
inflammation is still yet not talked about, but
Correct.
it's a key thing that we need to talk about beyond medicine and in medicine both.
Agreed. And again, I'm so glad you said it, because look, we're in 2024, almost 2025, and people are still not talking about it. Hijama, which was prescribed to the Prophet, I'm bad at math, 1800 years ago. He was prescribed hijama as a way of healing because it reduces inflammation, right? So I get so passionate about it because I'm like, man, the wisdom behind these things, if we just knew it, if we understood it, if we took the time to understand it. So why does inflammation happen? Okay, I'm going to make this really, really, really basic. Okay, so why does inflammation happen? Inflammation happens in our body because our organs aren't working the way they should. If everything in our body is working the way that Allah intended, the way that Allah created it, then we'd all be healthy, right? So something is amiss. We have extra inflammation, okay? So we've got this extra inflammation. Why? Because our organs are not working. They're not doing the thing they were meant to do. They're not doing it effectively. They're not doing it efficiently. Why are they not doing it properly? Because they are overburdened with toxins, okay? They're overburdened with toxicity. So where do the toxins come from? Does anybody want to put it into their chat? Again, I can't see it. So if you unmute, that's cool. But if you want to put it in the chat, that's fine. Afshan can take a look at that. Where do toxins come from?
From your skin.
Food.
Okay.
So toxins are in everything that we eat,
Okay.
in the air that we breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah, in all forms, really.
Yeah. Okay.
Food and air, clothing,
Yeah.
cleaners.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Well, you guys have
got
named.
processed food, environment, and water.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
you guys have
And my
named.
kids are buying clothes from the Shein and wherever. And I just saw Skilled just banned one of those places for how much of toxin was in that cloth. So
Yeah. Yes. Isn't that crazy?
somebody said toxic relationships.
Yes,
I agree with that too.
I'm glad you said that because we're going to talk about all of that. So you guys, I'm glad that toxic relationship, because I was going to say you've kind of covered everything except one tiny thing. Toxins effectively come from everywhere. Okay. And so there'll be one crowd of people that will say, well, what are you going to do? Toxins come from everywhere. So there's nothing you can do. Where are you going to start eliminating? My take on it is, let's eliminate all the toxins that we have the power to eliminate. Can I eliminate the toxins in the air? No, I can't. And nor am I going to be walking around every day with an oxygen tank on me, right? So I can't control the toxins that are in my air. But you know what I can control is the toxins that are in my cleaning products, the toxins that are in my skincare products. I think it's all women on here. If there are any men, I apologize. I've just only heard women voices so far, but ladies, I know I was just at a party last night. I know all y'all love to wear your perfumes. Extremely toxic. And if you have daughters who are wearing scents and perfumes and body sprays, extremely toxic. It's getting into their nervous system. It's getting into their hormones. There's a reason why these days, the younger girls, I don't know the age group of, I know many of you that are on here, but I don't know the general age group. But this like 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, early 30s, I'm going to be honest, we're not going to get into this in detail, but I am seeing so many of these young girls with extreme fertility issues. They don't have regular cycles. They're now married and they're unable to get pregnant. And it's so hard to explain to them, you guys, you now have to undo these last 10, 15 years of exposure that you have done to yourself with all the makeup you've started wearing, with all the perfumes you're wearing, the body sprays. And I know it's really hard because we live in this world with the TikToks and social medias, and you can buy everything from everywhere, but no one is understanding the long-term effects of these things. And I'm telling you, I'm seeing it on a daily basis here on my table. And it breaks my heart. It absolutely, absolutely breaks my heart. So all the products, and we'll talk about what are some cleaner choices that you can make. The toxic relationships that someone said, I'm not trying to get into toxic relationships, but stress and trauma is, and Afshan, you might, I think this will be interesting for you, certainly. Stress and trauma is the biggest toxin in our life, okay? When we have constant, like toxic relationships, we have constant stress in our life, work stress, family stress, whatever the stress is, it elevates our cortisol levels. When you are in a constant state of an elevated cortisol level, that creates an inflammatory response in your body. And you're in a constant cortisol level release, increased state of cortisol release, you are in a chronic state of inflammation. What happens when you've got excess inflammation? Your organs aren't working properly, and then you get illness. And it doesn't matter what illness we're talking, like I said, from depression, anxiety, dementia, and Alzheimer's. all the way to cancer. Was somebody going to ask something? No, okay. And this is also really hard. A lot of times you'll see people with, and I feel like, I'm sure, Afshan, you've done things around mental health, but you see people getting into their 40s and their 50s and their 60s, and their bodies just start shutting down, right? All of a sudden, all these diseases and illnesses pop up. And what are the things that people say? If you were on very early before we actually started the official conversation, Afshan and I were talking about how most people will say, oh, well, that was bound to happen to me because my mom had that, or my grandmother had that, or my grandfather had that. We assume that our disease and illness is related to genetics. And the truth is, and this is a hard truth because most people don't want to accept this, but the truth is that most disease is only 2% genetic, which means 98% of it you can control. And again, all healing and everything comes from Allah, of course. And that's the foundation, but only 2% of disease is genetic. And so when we have unresolved trauma from our childhood, from our past relationships, from our current relationships, this takes a huge toll, a huge physical toll on your health. I would strongly recommend, if anybody is interested in this kind of conversation, this kind of learning, understanding this part of inflammation and disease as it relates to stress and trauma, there is a book called The Myth of Normal. And it's by Dr. Gabor Mate, who himself is he's actually a Holocaust survivor. And alhamdulillah, he's extremely outspoken right now about what's going on in Gaza. And it's beautiful, beautiful to witness. He's Canadian, but he's originally from, can't remember where he's from, but from Eastern Europe. And he's a physician. He's a trauma expert. And he has a book called The Myth of Normal that he wrote with his son, Daniel Mate. And they really, really explore the connection between trauma and stress and illness. And they have all these studies about people who, are coming in. Afshan, you were saying, you're seeing all these 6 and 7 and under 10-year-olds coming in with all these autoimmune diseases. 100%. These days it's related to our use of screens. It's related to the food. Our water is horrible. Our air is horrible. That's a big component of it. But what they're even showing now is that the way that pregnancies, when women are carrying their babies, the kind of stress that they might be around while they're pregnant, how that's transferred into the womb and how it impacts the baby, and it just sets the child up for illness later in life. I mean, it's fascinating stuff. I could literally talk about it for days and days, but I would recommend, if anybody is really, really interested in this, The Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor, Gabor Mate, Mate. Okay. Little sidetrack, but I think this is really important to understand, because and the reason I'm going into such depth with this is what I tell people is, listen, when you're coming and you're seeing me and you're coming in for hijama and you get 3 sessions done and then you come back once every 3 months, that's amazing. Like, it's wonderful. It's literally a physical way of detoxing your body, getting the toxins out. However, you will end up on my table every 3 months until you just decide to stop coming. Because if you're not changing your life and your lifestyle in terms of the toxins that you are exposed to from your products, from your food choices, from the stress in your life, then you're just stuck in this vicious cycle. You get the toxins out, but you get a bunch more in. Then we get them out, and then you get a bunch more in. So let's get them out. But what can you take control of outside my table that's going to start to change your life and your health? Okay. All right. So okay, wait, hold on. So, okay, I'm going to wait. So one of the things I think I have to, let me stop my share for a second. Okay. Okay, I can kind of see all of you guys a little bit now. Okay, let me stop for a quick second. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to field any questions right now. And then if not, we'll go on and then we'll come back. But I wanted to get off the screen just so you guys could show you a couple of things. Does anybody have any questions right now? Comments, anything?
Anjum, Assalamu alaikum. When you talk about toxins and everything, can you touch base on skincare, please?
Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of,
Skincare. Because I've heard that obviously skincare has a lot of toxins as well, just like perfume and stuff.
yeah,
And skin मैंने इसलिए कहा था because I heard it's the biggest organ that takes in these toxins, right?
yes.
So skincare के बारे में, and give us ideas what's the alternative to,
Sure.
you know, your regular moisturizer, sunscreen, you know.
Yeah,
ठीक है?
sure,
Thank
sure,
you so
sure.
much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
happy to. So, so you're right, you know, Maheen, that skin is obviously, we only have two outward facing organs, okay? First one, meaning in the sense that they're outward, right? All the other organs are inside. We have two outward facing organs. The skin is one of them. What's the second one?
Mhm.
What is it? Who knows?
I don't know.
It's funny,
Skin.
right? I think people don't think about it. They
Yeah.
don't make the connection.
Hair?
What is
Yes.
it?
Hair?
Hair? Hair is not an organ. Your eyes. Your eyes are an organ. So we only have two outward facing organs, okay? And skin, of course, is the largest organ. What we put on our skin, 100% gets absorbed into our bloodstream, okay? It goes in. This idea that, yes, the skin, of course, is our protective mechanism, and it is meant to protect us. The skin itself has its own layer of microbiome. It has its own layer of bacteria that fights off, you know, things that shouldn't be there. But everything that goes on our skin gets absorbed into our body. So when you are looking at skincare, the things that you want to be mindful of is, well, fragrance. We talked about fragrance. I'm like literally beg people, please don't use fragrance. I know it smells nice. I know it's hard. You can find other things that aren't fragrance, that aren't perfume, that can also still make you smell good, right? But fragrance is basically a code word for like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of chemicals. And it doesn't matter what the chemicals are, they just lump them all into this thing when they put them on a product, and it's called fragrance. And just like I said, the way that it impacts our nervous system and our endocrine, our hormones, it's just horrible for us. When it comes to skincare, some of the recommendations I make is eliminate water from your skincare. So even if you're going to wherever you're buying your skincare and the label of the skincare says it's clean and it's organic and da 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 da, there is a ton of greenwashing that goes on out there. It's very easy to trick the system. And then, you know, they put a little picture of a plant and make it green, and immediately psychologically we think, oh, this one's clean, and it's not. It's usually not clean. So I would, after we get off this call, go into your bathroom and look at your cleansers and look at your moisturizers. I would venture to guess that the first ingredient, and if it's not your first ingredient, it's going to be in your top 3 ingredients, is water. Okay. Water, first of all, is a cheap filler. So that's why people put it in products, because it makes the thing look much bigger, but it's just a filler. The second thing about it, and I'm not going to get into the science of why water is actually not good for our skin, because it actually dehydrates your skin. But if you want to just like a quick mental note, think about when you get out of, if you go swimming or if you get out of the shower, you're immersed in water. Fine. Swimming, of course, has chlorine in it. So even just forget that. But when you get out of the shower, does your skin feel hydrated or does your skin feel dry? And your skin, I'm going to guess 99% of you are going to say my skin feels dry and I have to put lotion on top. So water itself is really great and hydrating for inside our body, but it's actually not hydrating for our skin. It actually, there's a whole scientific reason. Water attracts water. So when you put water on your skin, it actually pulls the water out of your skin. So, but that's not even what I'm really talking about. Water is also an unstable ingredient. So in order for companies to stabilize the water in their products, they have to put preservatives in it. There's like 1% of companies out there that use plant-based preservatives, but they're hard to find. You can find them, but most places will not use plant-based preservatives. They are using chemicals to preserve the water that is in their moisturizer or their cleanser. So if you are using like I said, I would challenge you, go check. first, second, or third, probably your first. So eliminate the water if you can. There are tons of waterless moisturizers. I use waterless moisturizers for my face and for my body. Some are tallow based. I mean, there's a ton on them. I give some recommendations on my website if you want to go look at them. But there are other ones out there that you can find. So remove the water, remove the fragrance. The other thing I would really caution you guys on is deodorant. Deodorant is an extremely, extremely important, well, it's an extremely important product for the good functioning of society. But beyond that, because of the proximity to the lymph nodes, if you are using a mainstream deodorant, you are really, really, really impacting your immunity. And deodorant is something we put on once a day. And when we have kids, that's one of the first things our kids start to use as far as their hygiene is concerned. Extremely important that you are using a really clean deodorant. Of course, we don't worry about aluminum and all of that anymore. For the most part, that has been eliminated. But again, you don't want water in your deodorant. And I am always of the belief that if I am using so even when I use skincare that not only moisturizes, it's waterless, of course, but it not only moisturizes my skin, but it also feeds my microbiome. So there's a functional component, but that's getting a little bit too much. But that would be sort of my recommendations, Maheen, for skincare. Eliminate the water, eliminate the fragrance, be really careful about what deodorant you're using. Okay. Any other questions right now before we could talk a little bit more about hijama? Okay, so I want to just show you, you guys have probably seen, these are the cupping cups. And if you guys did watch any of the Olympics, you probably saw a lot of the athletes, with the big marks around after they get cupping. But effectively what this does so we have a pump, okay, that's kind of what it looks like. And then we have the cups. And I can show, well, I don't know if I can do it on myself, but I'm going to try. So if you guys can see, effectively, we put the cup on and you suction the cup. And if you guys can you guys see that? It's creating a negative suction. Oops. Oh, it came off. Hold on. It's creating a negative suction on my skin. So it pulls up your skin in there. Okay, you guys got the picture, right? Pulls it up. When it pulls it up, so if you're curious about, well, how does that even work? So when it pulls it up, what happens is that it causes a rush of circulation into the area, but generally, of course, it's not just localized here. The blood is flowing from everywhere. So it causes like a rush of circulation when we do this negative suction. When the rush of circulation happens, two really great things happen, is your oxygenated blood starts moving all around your body, which you need oxygenated blood to decrease inflammation and to heal your body. So that's the first benefit. The second benefit is because it causes this rush of circulation, we all have stagnant blood in us, right? Blood with the dead cells, the toxins, it's kind of just slow and sluggish. But because we're forcing this circulation, the blood all comes back into circulation. So in regular cupping, the kind of cupping that you might see with like your masseuse or your physical therapist or your acupuncturist, when they're not doing the wet cupping, their goal is, okay, we've got this circulation going, good oxygenated blood, and then the kind of dead, slow blood back into circulation. Their goal is that your lymphatic system picks up all the toxin blood, the dead blood, and just removes it, right? And it does, our body does do that. But the wisdom behind the hijama is we say, okay, wait a minute, we're already getting this toxic blood to kind of come up and it gets stagnated into this area that we've cupped. So then we go in with a tiny blade, and I'll show it to you guys. So it's just a small little blade like this. Can you guys see it? Okay, it's a small little blade like this. And then we go in and we make little scratches. So we remove the cup, and then we make tiny little scratches underneath the cup. And then we put the cup back and we suction it again. And what happens is that all that toxic blood that is there, that has accumulated there, just comes out of your body. And what happens is when people finish the session, and I think there are a couple of you on here that said you've had it done, when people finish the session and they get up, I usually don't like to say this because I like to hear people say it for themselves, But the expression that I hear the most is, I just feel so much lighter. Right? And it's such an interesting expression to say that, oh gosh, I just feel so much lighter. Because I mean, we haven't reduced any of our weight or anything, but when you get that sluggish, toxic, stagnant blood out, it's literally like your organs are saying, okay, I can breathe again. I can function again. I can do what I need to do. So alhamdulillah, like the healing that we see after a hijama session, and of course, after subsequent hijama sessions, this is the subhanallah of it, right? This is the miracle of this sunnah practice that Allah has told all of us to do. So that's kind of the 101 on hijama. I will tell you that, you know, for like sometimes people will come in and they'll say, oh, I have a really bad knee. And I say, okay, great to know. Like, you know, we do a full medical history, but we always start on the back. There are 7 very specific spots that we target the very first session. The top 3 are considered sort of the sunnah, 3 sunnah points, and then we do 4 additional ones. And the reason those are targeted first is because each of those spots hits your organ system. So it's kind of like, I tell people, it's like your first really, really, really big cleanse, and we get all the toxins out. I've had people come in. I had a white female from my neighborhood. Actually, she came in and we did the first session. And when she came in for her second session, she said that she used to have lockjaw and she had had it for years and years and years. And in fact, didn't even tell me she had it when she came in. She didn't even tell me in her medical history because it had just become such a part of her life. And we were working on her back, so she didn't think about it. And she said it completely went away. I didn't touch her jaw. I didn't have to, right? And again, that is the beauty of holistic health. Nothing exists in isolation. We are one big functioning body. And so everything impacts the other thing. So she had toxins built up in her body. We literally removed them and her jaw completely loosened up. SubhanAllah. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. Okay. Any questions before I move on? I've got a couple more slides. I don't really know. Afshan, I
I'm
don't
curious
know.
if you did hijama on people who are like suffering with cancer or in the middle of the illness. You know, most people probably come when they're a little healthier to you, but I'm curious if you did them
Yeah.
when they're really sick and what that
So,
results.
yeah, so I do have a lot of people who come after, and after they're kind of in remission, one, because they're trying to remove the toxicity of the radiation and the chemo. So I have a lot after. I do have a pediatric, ongoing pediatric cancer client. They have not, oh, I hate it when Zoom does that. They are not using hijama as their primary source of healing. So this little girl is still undergoing all her regular chemo and stuff, but not using it, but using this to supplement. It is hard. I will say it is hard for people to even wrap their head around hijama as a healing modality, as a way to completely heal your body. Forget about the fact that it's sunnah. And so then when you add on a layer of a serious illness like cancer, it's extreme fear really sets in and you just feel like, I have to go this route and I got to do the chemo, I got to do the radiation, like I have to, right? But I don't personally, but my professors were all in England. They have thousands and thousands and thousands of people that they have healed who never went the conventional route or went the conventional route of the chemo and the radiation. And their doctor still said, there's nothing we can do. And then they started, intensive hijama sessions. And when I'm saying intensive, we're talking about you're coming in every day, every day, every day, every day. And they're completely healed, right? So alhamdulillah, it's, some of it is just having the tawakkul in this modality of healing that Allah has asked us to do.
Oh, that's amazing. Huda, you had a question. You raised your hand.
Yes, ma'am. What can you say for the hijama for the face?
Yeah, so I have not done hijama with the blade on the face. I have not done that, but I do hijama on the face, but I don't do the scratches. So for the facial hijama, I do a combination of moving cupping. So I have cups that are For the face, they're over there, but for the face, they're smaller than this, and they're silicone. So these are hard plastic. Those ones are soft plastic, a soft silicone. So there is a very specific movement you do that really helps with like lymphatic drainage. And some people love it. Like it's so relaxing, and they actually, it kind of feels like, oh, you know, it's like a facial, like you're getting rid of, feels like you're increasing so much circulation. So there's a lot of healing that's going into the face, and people normally feel extremely like it's they come out of the bathroom, they're like, I feel like I look 10 years younger, because it just brings all the blood, the healthy blood flow into the face. But I have never done hijama like wet like proper hijama with the blade on the face.
Aisha, you had a question.
Assalamu alaikum, Anjum.
Alaikum
Great talk. But
Yeah,
as a physician, whenever we are talking about any procedure, it's always about benefits versus risks. So what are the risks involved here? Does it increase the risk of infection or anything else?
I mean, I think if you had a practitioner that wasn't very good with their sanitation and hygiene, yes. But there are no risks. I think that's something that's really wonderful, is that there are no risks. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess just like going to get your blood drawn at CPL, if they're not using hygienic practices, there's a risk of getting your blood drawn. But there really are no risks. I mean, everything is, you know, one time use. There's definitely, we have pretty stringent sort of infection protocols. I was telling Avshan, she had asked me what my bachelor's was in. My bachelor is in microbiology and immunology, so I'm extremely particular about that stuff. So there are no risks. One thing that I haven't mentioned about this, because again, this is really just about holistic healing, but I do want to bring this up. And again, Afshan, you just let me know if we're like running short on time, but the connection between hijama and jinns. So there is a big correlation, and Islamically, there is also, in fact, my professor in the UK, is a woman. She, at the age of like mid-20s, she started having a ton of seizures. And I can't remember if she was pregnant at the time or got pregnant after. I don't remember exactly that detail, but she kept having a bunch of seizures. And so she went to see the neurologist, and she went to go see all the physicians, and they did all the tests, and they said, yeah, okay, clearly you're having seizures, but they're not really falling into the pattern of epilepsy. And it was completely unexplainable. And it was horrible. She said it was absolutely horrible. It lasted a very long time. I can't remember the span of how long it lasted. And she ended up she had heard about hijama, and she thought, okay, maybe hijama will help. And she went through a session of hijama and had a pretty severe experience with a jinn during hijama. And the hijama practitioner was able to, of course, all with Allah, was able to, make the jinn leave. And that was it. She was healed. And so there is a correlation in illness and jinns. This is one of the things jinns can do. May Allah protect us. But this is one of the things. And there have been lots of cases where, all the practitioners were all part of a Google group. And there's lots of cases of people coming in with clients are coming in with unexplainable illness, and it, they do the hijama practice, and it turns out there's a jinn, and it's there, there's an element of it that's pretty scary, but we're actually taught not to be fearful of jinns, right? We can overpower them with the ruqya, because of course in every hijama session there's Quran playing in the background. I put the Quran on even for my non-Muslim clients, my clients of other faiths, and I let them know that I'm putting this on, because it is a means of protection, and it is just the Quran itself, the ruqya, is a means of healing. So I know that's not quite what you were asking about, side effects or what risks, but it is something I wanted to point out. I know that I didn't really cover it, because I think that's the jinns would have to be a whole other conversation and discussion, but it is something I wanted to share.
Great, thanks.
Yes, of course. Thanks, Aisha. Anything else?
Assalamu alaikum, Anjum.
Alaikum
So,
salam.
so sorry, I don't know why my name is not showing. It's Subuhi, but I've been logged out since you and Afsha were talking, actually, how to figure it out, but I don't know how to take care of it anyway. So the thing is, I know there's so many other anti-inflammatory medicine out there, like turmeric and other they talk about, or so many vitamins. Do you
Mhm.
recommend anything in general? Because it's so confusing now, so many herbal and other things which we can take. And I don't want to like sometimes your body needs specific things and you don't want to overburden it with things.
Yeah.
So,
No, I think yeah, I think that's a great question. My go-to, because it's Sunnah and it's what's recommended, is black seed. So I will always tell people, if you've got health conditions, in fact, like, it's black seed, something I take pretty much every morning. But I would always say incorporate black seed into your routine in the morning. And in the morning, if you can do, it's what's kind of sort of called Sunnah water. If you can, just warm up a little bit of water, doesn't have to be boiling, but just warm, and you put a few drops of black seed oil. You don't need a ton, a few drops of black seed oil, a few drops of apple cider vinegar, and a little bit of honey for taste, and of course for its own healing benefits, just a little glass, and you drink that first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. So that in itself is just extremely healing. So my go-to will always be black seed oil, because it is a sunnah, and that's what we've been sort of instructed to use as a healing mechanism. So, as far as other supplements, it's so hard, because I know there are so many out there, and it's really a big, money-making sort of industry. I'm reluctant to recommend any particular supplements without really knowing somebody's medical history. That being said, if you are taking a supplement, just like we spent a lot of time talking about toxins, you have to be really careful that the supplement you are taking, it might have, like, so just turmeric, right? If we're saying turmeric, or what, it doesn't matter what it is, iron, vitamin D, you want to make sure that the supplement you're taking is pure, because what's happening, what I'm seeing a ton of, is people are taking multivitamins and iron and whatever they're taking their supplements. And then you look at the list of ingredients, and yeah, it has the iron or it has the vitamin D, but it also has like a list this long of all these other things that are in it. So yeah, you might be getting the benefit of the vitamin D, but what's the toxic overload that you are also now introducing into your body? So sometimes we're creating more problems by trying to solve this one. So my caution to you would be, take supplements that are extremely pure, obviously earth-based. Stay away from lab-derived things. Like, there's the lab-derived vitamin C, and then there's vitamin C that you can take that's literal extraction from plants and fruit that have vitamin C in it. They're two very different things. The other thing is, if you're taking any supplements that are a tablet, so like when I say a tablet, I mean, I don't have any here, of course, but like a Tylenol, like how a Tylenol is a tablet, that has edible glue in it. And yes, it's edible, so technically our bodies can digest it, but try not to take that. Try to take capsules that have the powder, like the herbs are in a powder, and then the coating is just a thin, vegan type coating that easily dissolves. It becomes bioavailable in your body at a much faster rate than a tablet would. So that would be sort of my recommendation. I did want to talk a little bit, if we have time, and let me just look at my slides. I may not even.
We're good on time. It's
We're good on time? Okay.
29, so
Okay.
we got.
Okay, cool. So let me just get back on here for a quick second then. And okay. So, the goal is, and this is actually a good segue. So we thank you for asking that question, because, we need to learn how to work with our body to heal it. So again, if you've got a vitamin D deficiency and you're being told by your physician, take vitamin D, many of us have vitamin D deficiencies. And sometimes I think as Muslims, because we are so covered all the time, our exposure to the sun isn't great, right? And at some level that's good, because obviously we don't want to be impacted by the UV rays. But the other part of it is we're not getting enough sun exposure. Sun exposure to our skin, two outward facing organs, sun exposure to our skin and sun exposure to our eyes is one of the things that causes our body to produce vitamin D daily. So I do tell people at least once a day. This is also, I had a slide on this, but I wasn't sure how much time we had, but I'll mention this. At least once a day, we need to get outside and we need to connect with the earth. The vast majority of us are in our homes. We go into our garage, we put on our shoes, and then we go outside. Usually we go into a car, but let's just say we're outside, and we might be outside for a long time, but our body is not connected with the earth because we have our shoes on. So grounding, getting our feet on the grass, on the dirt, on the beach, on the sand, whatever. Not so, concrete isn't the best, but it's still better than nothing. But getting our feet on the earth 15, 30 minutes a day, if you can just do 5 minutes, connecting with the earth. There is so, again, it's a Sunnah practice, but there's so much research to indicate how it immediately starts to change free radicals in our body, our energy. I mean, they do all these tests where they like test, you know, how quickly your cells, electrons, and everything are moving in your body. And then you go outside and ground, and they retest, and everything has just slowed down and relaxed. So if you're not grounding and you have the ability to do so, I think the best time to do it is after Fajr. If you have like whatever, 5 minutes to 30 minutes, it doesn't matter. Get outside right after Fajr. Maybe the rest of your kids are still getting ready for school or whatever. Get outside, get on your grass, put your feet on the grass, and just stand there for as long as you can. I'll typically do it after Fajr. I go outside and I stand or I sit in the grass, but make sure my feet are flat on the grass, and I'll just read my Quran there instead of reading it inside the house. It's extremely calming and extremely beneficial for your body. People, like anything, because everyone's going to try to make money off of everything, people have now made grounding mats, grounding mattresses. So now the mattress you're getting is connected basically to the outside. I don't quite understand it, but it's like connected to a grounding outlet. So it's actually connected to the earth. So you're sleeping on your mattress in your bedroom, but you're grounded to the earth. But all that to say is that you have a free way of doing it every day by just getting outside. You can buy shoes now that, though they are shoes, they still ground you to the earth. There's a huge movement of people understanding that we need to connect back to the earth. And the beauty of it is we come from a faith where that's what we've been told from the get-go. So working with your body to heal. So again, the goal is to eliminate toxins. So we talked about the supplements. If you're taking a supplement, don't take something to help your body only to overburden it with toxins. Skincare, cleaning products, stress, trauma. Get that book, The Myth of Normal. Truly an excellent book. But that is our goal. Our goal is to eliminate toxicity in our body so our organs can work efficiently, so our inflammation stays down, and we keep disease and illness at bay. You want to fuel your body to make it work the way it's meant to. My go-to for fueling my body is, of course, apart from actual real food, is homeopathy and herbs. You know, as it relates to the food, there's nothing I'm going to say today that's something you haven't heard. You guys already know. Try to eat organic as much as you can. You know, if you're buying the meat, and I do recognize that it is really hard to find Zabia meat that is grass-fed and, you know, hormone-free, antibiotic-free. Technically, from an Islamic perspective, Zabia is a lot more than just the way the animal has been slaughtered, right? It has to actually a big part of it has to do with how the animal has been raised in life. That's why when you go to really high-end steakhouses, even in the US, most of them use Zabia meat. Why? Because they're getting, if people who are truly doing proper Zabia meat they're doing the thing that our Western society is all like, oh yeah, that's so good, grass-fed, hormone-free. That is how we're supposed to be raising our animals Islamically anyway. Unfortunately, I think a lot of times that's not the case. Everyone just focuses on the way the animal is slaughtered. But you know, your food, organic, as little processed as possible, as fresh as possible. If you guys personally know me, you know that I have like super jumped into the sourdough making thing I started earlier this year, and it's a constant. I've got starter on my counter all the time. I think Sean took some from me too one time. I've got starter on my counter all the time. There's always a fresh loaf or two that I make. We don't typically eat a lot of bread, and when we do, it's not store-bought. Even the best bakeries will typically use some sort of a dough conditioner or a preservative to preserve the bread. So I make my own, and it doesn't take me long. It took me a second to understand the journey. if you guys are interested in any of the sourdough stuff, just reach out. I'm happy to share my sourdough stuff with you guys. But I love it. I love it. And I love that our family is eating. I know exactly what's in our bread. It's water, the sour, like flour, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of butter. And my butter is grass raised and all that. So you want to fuel your body from a food perspective. Then as it relates to homeopathy and herbs, I am a big believer in figuring out what herbs and homeopathy is just a delivery mechanism, really, if more than anything, but just how to really harness the plants and the earth, Allah's bounty, right? Earth that comes from the earth, to use it as a healing mechanism. I think I was sharing with a few people last night, that I've just started using. I haven't started using. I've ordered. I was hoping they would have arrived, but they haven't arrived yet. Some homeopathy drops for hormone balance, and it's anybody can use it. I mean, men can use it. Anybody can use it. But of course, just in my age range of friends that are using it, we're all kind of in that perimenopause age range now. And so a lot of the symptoms of perimenopause, the not sleeping well, the hot flashes, digestion issues, visceral fat, weight gain, that is a big thing within perimenopause, is kind of that midline abdominal fat area, which men go through too. But that's actually a very bad area to gain weight, not just from a vanity and how you look perspective and how you feel about yourself sometimes, but from a health perspective, carrying that weight in that mid place. So these are homeopathy drops that basically balance your hormones. That is what they do. They balance your hormones. And then the result of it is that a lot, if not all, really, of the symptoms, those symptoms that we talked about, the hot flashes and the sleep, mood, anxiety and such, really starts to creep up as well during perimenopause. And that has a lot to do with the cortisol and insulin balance, but it regulates all those hormones. And so the symptoms start to go away. And what people are finding is that the visceral fat starts to go away because they're really balancing the hormone. So mine'll arrive next week. And if you guys are curious how they're working for me, just ask me. You guys have my website. Some of you know me, you can just ask me, but I'm really excited to get those. But again, all plant-based. So when we can learn how to fuel our bodies with things that work with our body instead of work against our body, that is going to be the best way for our bodies to heal. Our bodies are meant to heal themselves. I always tell my kids that, because I was like, look, when you give yourself a paper cut or you cut your skin, even with a knife, what happens? Yeah, you clean it off or whatever. Most times, depending on how deep it is, you're not going to need stitches. Most times your skin just heals itself and there's not even a scar. Sometimes there is. When we get burned, what happens? Our body heals itself. Our body knows how to do it. This is how Allah has made our bodies. They're truly miracles. It's why, I was so particular about home birthing. I was like, my body, we conceive the baby, we make the baby on our own. We grow the baby on our own. Of course, everything comes from Allah, but our body knows to grow the baby. Yeah, we take some vitamins and we maybe don't start eating this, or we eat more of that. But effectively, our body grows this whole baby on its own. Why is it when it's time to birth the baby, we think, we can't do this. We need all the help we can get. Why is that? And this is not a plug for hospital birth or home birth or any of that, but I'm just trying to check in on mindset, right? What has happened to us that we think, and is it media? Is it I don't know, but what is it in our brains that have kind of turned off this idea that these are all natural processes. Our body knows how to heal. Our body knows how to birth. Our body knows how to grow the baby. So I really encourage you guys to really sit with that for a little while, especially the next time that you guys aren't feeling well. Even when you think of a fever, right? What is a fever? A fever is our body's response to kill the bacteria or the virus that's making us sick. But what typically happens, unless you're going to a really holistic physician or a really good physician who's tuned into this, what typically happens, somebody gets a fever, out comes the Tylenol or the Advil, give them this so the fever goes down. No, the fever is meant to kill the bacteria and virus. Why are you trying to bring the fever down, right? Certainly if the fever gets above 102, 103, it's a different story. But up until that range, let your body heal itself. It knows what it's doing. So anyway, that's just like I said, I could talk for a gazillion hours about all this stuff. Okay, fasting. We probably aren't going to have a ton of time to talk about this, but I am a big proponent of fasting. And again, because fasting controls, I'm big on controlling your hormones, right? So if you can control your hormones, for them to be, if you can, it's not about controlling your hormones. If you can work with your hormones and help them be where they need to be, it is amazing how well your body works. So of course, there's a big craze of intermittent fasting. There's probably a ton of you on here that do it or have heard of it. And the typical thing we hear about intermittent fasting is, fast for 16 hours and you eat in an 8-hour window. Of course, we know as Muslims the benefit of fasting with Ramadan. Though Ramadan fasting is a little bit different naturally because we're not doing the intake of the water, and the actual fasting hours change, right, depending on the time of year. So I personally used to intermittent fast for years and years and years, and I just did 16-8. It's just what I heard. It made sense to me, so I just did 16-8. And it's just in the last year or two where I really started looking into fasting for women as it relates to our menstrual cycle. Because during our menstrual cycle, again, different hormones, so estrogen, progesterone, insulin, cortisol, all these hormones fluctuate during a cycle. And there are things that we can do to work with our hormones to keep them at the right place in their fluctuation. And there's things that we can do that disrupt our hormones and put them in, like if something's supposed to be high, but we're doing something that makes it low, that's interfering with our natural hormone balance. And so I'm not going to get into cycle-specific fasting. There is a great book. I think Afshan just said she finished reading it. It's called Fast Like a Girl. It's by Dr. Mindy Pell, Peltz. If you guys are interested in it, you can get that book. If you don't feel like reading it, you can reach out to me. I'm happy to share with you. It's very specific about, during what day you are in your cycle, assuming your cycle is 28 days, 30 days. From day 1 to day 30, how many hours you should be fasting that syncs up with your cycle. And this is true even for menopause and menopausal women. You might not be having a menstrual cycle anymore, but your hormones are still moving up and down. So this is still all about how you work with your hormones. So when you have a cycle, it's a bit easier. When you don't have a cycle, you have to be a little bit more tuned into your body. Like, how is my mood? How is my sleep? How is my skin? Like, all these things are really, really impacted by hormone balance, which again is why I invested in these drops, because I really want to try them for myself to see, does it really kind of bring me up to the next level? And I think that is at least the end of my official slideshow presentation. But I think now we can just open it up, I guess, to questions or.
So the book's name is Fasting Like a Girl, Mindy
Pell. I think it helps. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I read that book about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed reading that book because I do a lot of intermittent fasting, but it made so much sense with my perimenopause. I'm 45 and all the changes my body's going through.
Yeah.
She is on the podcast that I also listened to, The Diary of the CEO, that I was talking to you about.
Yes.
She did an hour and a half talk on it, and it's such a good, she summarizes the book really well on that podcast too.
Yeah, she actually has a ton of YouTube videos too that you can watch. Fast Like a Girl, Dr. Mindy Peltz. And it's fascinating. And I think, for people who are not that interested in, I coach all my clients through it now as well, but for people who are not that interested in all the science and the behind the scenes of what's going on in your body, that's okay. You don't have to be, but you can just learn, okay, first 10 days, this is how I should fast. Next 5 days, this, next 5 days, that. And it really does make a difference to your hormones and to your body. And, being able to balance your hormones is huge. It's huge for so many things, for mood, for sleep, for digestion, for weight, for all of that.
And then there's an ask for you to share the last slide one more time, just for a moment.
Say that one more time. Somebody wants to
share the last slide one more time for just a moment.
Sure, sure.
And if you could send this, if you don't mind leaving talking about your email, there's a way to contact you. So
Sure.
if anybody's interested in getting this PowerPoint from Anjum, they can always email her and ask her.
Yeah.
If she's happy to share it. So
Oh, hold on. Where's my?
yeah, I mean, I personally got on this path. 2018, I went to Hajj. I came back. That was my 40th birthday gift for myself. And 40 hits and so much changes for me in terms of how I went down the rabbit hole of sort of getting all the tests because I had weight dizziness, weight gain. And then I went and did a fellowship in integrated psychiatry, did a lot of conferences on nutritional psychiatry. And I see this, and that's what my practice is majorly based on, holistic approach. And it can be overwhelming, right? Because I love my perfume. How do I get away? But I'm like, maybe I should get away from eating the multivitamin that I'm eating. Can I look at it and find something which is weekend based? Can I not take Tylenol every time I have a pain?
Yeah.
How can I physically be healthy? Last year, I fell off the wagon again, wasn't doing clean eating, and 12 pounds on and all the visceral fats back. And it's just taken a couple of, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
just have to pick and choose. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. You just say, what can I take in that I can do? Because when you start thinking of it, you want to do it all and feel so overwhelming that you fall off the wagon. And I
Yes.
think those are all great things that you're talking about that we really need to start because, like I said, it's preventive medicine in a way, but also medicine in a way that we're not talking. And I bet you in 10, 20 years, the difference between people is, I always say this is not if they're rich or poor, it'll be healthy versus unhealthy.
Yeah. And the thing is, and I don't know who was saying this the other day, I say it all the time, and it's so cliched, but health is wealth because I'm very big on women, anybody, but women in particular, truly living their best life, right? Like an empowered life, showing up every day. But when you can't get out of bed because you've got chronic fatigue or chronic pain or depression or anxiety, nothing else can happen, right? Like you can't, you have to take care of your health. And the other thing is that, statistically, people are living much longer now. There was a time when people would live to mid 70s, early 80s, and that would kind of be the end of it. Our generation and certainly future generations will be around, inshallah, much longer. And so what does that mean for our health, right? And so these are all things that we have to do them now, and it's never too late. But if we haven't started, we have to start. Like there's just no, there are no excuses. Our health, all healing comes from Allah. Everything comes from Allah. But our health is something that we can really get ahead of. And sometimes people think, I see this correlation. People think that if you are not overweight, then you are healthy. And that's actually not true. Weight is sure, it's a metric of health for sure. But it's, I have people tell me all the time, well, I don't really walk or I don't really work out. I'm not really overweight. I'm like, it's not about being overweight, right? It's about heart health and circulation and muscle strength and bone strength and mood. So anyway, so much to share.
Yeah, no, definitely. Huda had a question, Huda.
Yes.
Yes, I was gonna ask actually if you have WhatsApp group that we can be part of it, and also can you remind me what's your what's called the website?
Yes, I
But I have to say, Anjum is more advanced than most people. She's on Instagram, social medias, mashallah. We're talking about how she's so articulate and she puts it together.
Alhamdulillah, may Allah accept from all of us. So the website is Salam Life, SALAAM life.com. I don't have a WhatsApp group. I've thought about creating a school community. I don't know if you guys know School, SKOOL. It's just an app where it's a community and people can join, and then it's just like a place where people can talk and ask questions and stuff. It's just not something I've done yet. I'm always working on a couple of different things, and so there's a couple other things taking my priority right now. But something that I'll consider. But that is my website, and you'll have a way of getting in touch with me there as well. And I can give you, I wish the chat was working because I could can I put something in the chat and you guys can see it or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe
I'm going to put in my email here. So that's my email. You guys are welcome to email me. And this is my website. So you're welcome to email me as well, inshallah. So I know it's good. Afshan, you made a good point that sometimes it feels overwhelming, not knowing where to start, right? And so the goal is, you know, there's two types of people. There's the people who are like, I'm all in. I'm big, go big or go home. That's a little bit my nature. Like, no, I'm going to do all the things and I'm going to stick with it. You know, and so that's more my personality. But I understand that that's not everyone's personality, and that's not always the healthiest way to go for everyone as either. So just start working slowly, right? So if you're not someone who eats organic produce, if you're someone who buys eggs that are just you know, your conventional eggs, the least expensive eggs from HEB, start getting the ones that are, and again, it's not, you're actually better off getting an egg that is pasture raised than organic. You're better off getting, so you know, they're saying that the industries are crazy, right? There's cage-free, pasture-raised, free-range, organic. Organic just means that all the chickens are stuck in a big cage and their feed that they're getting is organic, right? Cage-free means they're not in a cage, so they're kind of walking around, but they may or may not be getting organic feed. So there's all these things, but just start incrementally. Your milk should absolutely be organic, because at least that means the hormones aren't and the antibiotics aren't in them. Meat. So, you know, food is a big thing. Food should be healing and nourishing to our body. So start with food, then start moving to to deodorant or skincare. You know, just start making the incremental sort of steps. And inshallah, your body will start adapting as well.
Awesome, alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum. So, Anjum, what about microwave? I noticed like these days people are using, I know I shouldn't bring it up, but
No, I'm glad
like,
you
yeah. The other thing is, I think so. One thing which I noticed with me, that I somehow go late to the bed, and I noticed that I just go on the phone and I go on the just go to the TV, like or watch something, and I know I'm tired, but I don't just go to bed.
Yeah.
And there's one more thing which I want to share, like for grounding.
Yeah.
And I know it's very hot right now, but when the weather is nice, I prefer to do one of my prayers outside in my backyard, and I love doing it because it really helps me to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When I see the grass moving, also like you feel like you have to go in this ground. So like it just make it so different. While when you pray inside, you think about kitchen, kids, other things. But when you're outside, you see the sky, and like it really makes a difference for me. So I try to do at least one prayer outside in my bed.
That's beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing that. I need to, I do that sometimes, but I go on my deck. So I'm outside, but I'm still not on the ground. But thank you for that beautiful reminder. And again, when we talk about the wisdom that Allah has put into Islam, what is sujood? What is sujood? Grounding. Our head is on the ground. I mean, think about it, right? Like there's a reason there. It's not just a form of full prostration and submission. Every move, like what is ruku, right? Like, why are we going? They're all like yoga poses, right? So just alhamdulillah, like the beauty and the wisdom of everything Allah has taught us. So yes, sujood, your head is on the ground. I'm a big prolonged sujood. I stay in sujood for a long time. I love sujood. But again, I'm on my prayer mat, which is on my carpet, which is on the concrete and the foundation of my home. So I'm not quite on the ground. Maybe we need to make a grounding prayer mat. That would be really cool. Afshan, you were talking about business ideas. There you go. Microwave. It's funny that you say that, because my family sometimes really has a hard time with me. All of them. My father, not so much, but my sibling, my mom, my spouse, my kids, because they're like, oh my gosh, mom, you don't let us do anything. So when we were having this house made, I asked the builders not to put in a microwave. I said, I don't want it. I don't use it. It's not, I think, a way that we should be cooking. But I didn't have a choice, and they got it. We have one. We don't use it. Sometimes my husband will use it. Sometimes my kids will use it, but I certainly don't use it. You know, And then I have discussions with people and they're like, oh, Anjum, the waves, they're microwaves. They're tiny, tiny, tiny waves. And so it's fine. It's not a big deal. And I say, okay, look, if once a week I'm using a microwave because it's just a faster way to heat up rice than on the pot, because it's not so good to reheat up rice on a pot. If I'm doing it once a week, okay, fine, right? But I do recognize that I have killed some of the nutritional value of my rice, but okay, fine, I'll do it. But it's people use it every single day, multiple times a day. They're making their tea in it. They're heating up their food. Some people are like, I remember I was in Canada for the summer. I'm Canadian. I was in Canada for the summer and my mother was making some potato something. And I was like, what are you doing? And she said, oh, I'm just putting in the microwave to like bake. She's making a baked potato in a microwave or something. I was like, nah, we're not going to eat that. Let me put that in the oven for you. You know what I mean? So, to use it as an exception is one thing, but to make it your main way of cooking and being and every chai cup is made in there, I don't know. I do think these things impact. I think they absolutely impact our body. Sleep is incredibly important. Sleep is one of the most underrated health hacks. So sleep, when we are sleeping, that is when our body is healing and detoxing, okay? So if you are not getting enough sleep, forget about just waking up and feeling fatigued and feeling groggy and all of that. You are not giving your body enough time to detox. That is when your basic elemental, the basic functions of your body are happening and nothing else, right? There's no digestion. There's really not any muscle movement. There's no brain energy being taken. So sleep is incredibly important. I think we are all guilty of going to bed and then spending time on our phones because we finally have some peace and quiet because our kids are finally asleep. You just have to figure out a way. I'm a big on sleep. Both the kids know. My husband and I both, we are literally, our sleep is dictated by Isha. So teeth are brushed, faces are washed, kitchen is closed, all between Maghrib and Isha. And then Isha hits and we literally pray and we hit the bed. So when Isha is at like 8:30, we're in bed by 8:45. Like it is truly wonderful. It makes it a lot easier to wake up for the Tahajjud or Fajr in the morning, right? So there's so many benefits and of course the physical benefits happening in our body. So I would just encourage you, as much as you can, just get to bed earlier. It makes a huge difference, again, to hormone health, to cortisol in our body, all of it, major difference.
Jazakallah, Anjum. Thank you very much.
Yes, of course.
That's, I think one step at a time, and we really need to start thinking of it. And it's part of our religion.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful thing that we have. And yeah.
And so even, Avshan, just to your point quickly, when you were saying, one little thing at a time, I know you love for example, you love your perfume, but is it something you need, for example, right? This is how we start. Is it something you need to be doing every day? Is it something you need to put on every day? You know what I mean?
And that's what I started doing, right?
Right. So
and there are days when I feel very holistic and I'm like, I can go to a party without a perfume because I want to be more authentic. And that's that goal that I'm moving towards, right? Being more authentic to myself.
May Allah make it easy for you. Okay.
What about ether? What about ether? Does it make a difference?
Ether, I think ether is good. Oud is good. Just check the ingredients. Like you can buy oud now on Amazon, and then you look at the ingredients, and it's literally all fake, right? So just check the ingredients. Check the purity of it. That's what I would do.
Awesome. Jazakallah. And I'll let you stop the recording. And
Okay.
then you've got your email on the chat.